I remember when I first got my computer, I immediately sprang to Game Jolt to download all the different FNAF fan games I had heard so much about. Things like Tyke & Sons, Project Readjusted, and The Joy of Creation. But while I was there were a few that I looked at and felt really weary of. The idea of these games actually gave me fear. This was strange because I was well over my fear of FNAF at the time. I wasn't scared because of their creepy thumbnails on their page, but rather the fact that I just had absolutely no knowledge of these games. I kind of knew what to expect going into Tyke & Sons and Project Readjusted and Joy of Creation, but here, I was fearing the unknown here. But I had the urge to explore it, to experience a horror game blind, which was something I had never done before. And I did. And I had no clue what I was in for. Tealerland has to be one of the best FNAF fan games I've ever played. It has a unique atmosphere that I've never seen anywhere else, great looking animatronics that are terrifying up close, and satisfyingly intense gameplay that demands your attention, quick action, and quicker thinking. This game is not for the faint of heart. And I was really surprised to see that really no one else has talked about this. So I'm taking it upon my mantle for all 2 of my subscribers and delving into the wonderland of Tealerland. Tealerland opens up with a title screen that basically defines the atmosphere going forward. Everything is basked in this orange tan light, like it's dimly lit from a street lamp. The backgrounds are all blurred, making it incredibly hard to pinpoint what we're actually looking at. Combined with shadows and lack of lighting in some places, it can be really hard to make sense of your surroundings. It may sound bad, but it actually works in this game's favor. Animatronics and other moving parts of the game blend into the environment, making their sudden movements all the more frightening. They dwindle into the darkness and their full details are blurred, like monsters in movies where the camera is never quite on their full details. You can't see it, but you know it's dangerous. And this is all reflected greatly on the Game Jolt page. This is honestly what scared me away from the game the most when I first saw it. We hit new game and start off with this really nice looking opening cutscene. Basically, we play as David looking for our brother Teal at our old abandoned amusement park, Tealerland. Amusement park. I'm not going to go too deep into the story. It's not hard to understand. It just does go pretty in depth with all of its lore pages that I never managed to find. Whoops. And here we are, the happiest place on Earth. Somewhat. We open up on this walking minigame similar to Sister Location. Checking out different areas of the park, getting some context clues, seeing some sudden movements, and really getting a feel for the atmosphere of play here. We then find a maintenance hatch which we use to get to the facility below. And this starts another minigame. It's pretty simple. We move down this ladder while stopping to flash our light at Tealer when he's near. But remember when I said that not being able to see your enemies is a good thing? This is what I meant. Tealer is barely visible and his audio cue is basically silent. It feels scary in a pizza sim salvage sort of way. We get to the bottom of the ladder and are greeted to a menu that basically introduces us to the main gameplay for the game. So yeah, if you're wondering, this isn't formatted like Sister Location at all. The game is split up into 5 hours, each hour introducing more challenges into the mix. Instead of going through each hour, now it's unique, I'll go through what a typical round of this gameplay looks like. We have 2 rooms connected by a hall to work with. The control room has a computer, which will be useful later. Before we go into the hall, we can look through the keyhole to see if there's any animatronics there. Then we go into the hall, and this is where most animatronics show up, and what you do depends on who's there. The supply room has this lure thing. At the beginning of every hour, we have to build this lure by finding its parts between the supply room and the hall. And this kind of feels like a waste of time. Finding the parts is never hard, and it does not take long at all. So it really just feels like another step. But once the lure is completed, we can go back into the control room and take control of it on the computer. We move our lure around this grid where we can see all the other animatronics and where they are. When we get near an animatronic, we start to infect it with a little virus and take control of it. The main goal is to infect all the animatronics in the area and lure them into these little containment areas in the walls. And I am always for objective-based nights over time-based. As long as you do it correctly. There is a catch, though. The animatronics also affect our lure if we get near them for too long, so we have to keep on moving as we infect them. That wouldn't be a problem, save for the fact that some animatronics need to be looked at to shake off, whether that's in the hallway or through a keyhole, so while we're away, the lure has a chance of being infected. If it becomes infected, we have several seconds to get to the supply room and delete its virus. If there are animatronics in the halls, then this can be stressful. If we don't delete the virus in time, or delete the wrong file, our lure jump scares us and it's game over. In later hours, we actually do have a power aspect, in which we just need to use our lure to take gasoline to a generator, which is pretty simple. And yeah, that's basically what a typical hour looks like. Each hour also has a hard mode, where not only are the animatronics' behaviors taken up a notch, but you have to enter in a code to get into the computer every time you get into it, which is a lot more stressful than it sounds. But hard mode hours do actually give you double the perk points. Speaking of which, this game has upgrades which you buy. That's actually pretty cool. So, you're probably wondering what it is we're going up against here. Short answer is, some of the most original, best designed animatronics I've ever seen. Long answer is the following. Every animatronic follows a fantasy reptile theme. Each one feels scary, yet not out of place for a fantasy theme park. Tealer is the Dragon Jester, and he's the most aggressive out of the animatronics. He moves very quickly. His whole gimmick is if you see him, run. Staring at him for too long in any area will cause him to jump scare you. Willow is a wyvern magician, and she is by far my favorite design in the game. She's kind of a polar opposite to Tealer. She appears in the hall and will attack you if you don't go in there and stare at her for a bit. Frill is a lizard knight, and Tacy is a triceratops.
The mime?
They function similarly to Tealer. They show up in the hall and in the keyholes, but if you see them in the halls, stare at them until they go away. They'll attack you if you move, and if they come to the keyholes, they won't leave until you stare at them, which leaves you open to be attacked by Willow. This is where the game's atmosphere shines in its favor. Unlike other FNAF games, it isn't always clear which animatronic you're looking at. You may see Tealer and stare at him thinking he's someone else, or vice versa. It's never to the point where it's annoying, but it is significantly better if you just saw the PNG of the animatronic in all of its glory in front of us. Now, Mischievous is weird. Aside from being a dragon clown, he'll play his music when he's in the hall, so stay away from there. But after he's done, he'll put his doll in one of the rooms and you have to go find it before it jump scares you. Again, it tends to blend into the environment, so you really need to pay close attention. If it doesn't sound like it by now, this game is really good at getting your heart pumping. You have to make sure your lure doesn't get infected, so you can go look at Tacy and then go see Willow, but oops, looks like your lure got infected anyway, so go delete the virus. But wait, there's music in the hall, so wait for it to be over, and find the doll while you're at it. It all adds up, and I'm absolutely in love with it. Hey, Future's AJ here. I completely forgot to mention the jump scares in my original video. They all look fantastic, but I did want to mention that jump scares don't instantly mean game over, and it's actually really disorienting how they work, and I love it. You probably noticed in the footage of me getting jump scared by Frill that once per night you can go into the supply room and grab health. For every animatronic except for the lure. If your lure gets infected and it jump scares you, that's an instant game over. That's the only one where it's an instant. But for the other animatronics, it doesn't instantly mean death, and you can actually buy more health in the upgrades menu. Anyway, just want to throw that in there because that was definitely an element that I did want to mention. And then there's the finale, which changes up the gameplay for the climax. The animatronics merge into the deterrent, who's kind of our hourglass for the hour, but unlike Treasure Island, the deterrent takes place in a whole new area. We have a computer that shows us where the deterrent is when he moves. We also have access to 4 generators that we can charge up to explode. The idea is to charge them up to a certain point and then lure the deterrent into next to them and finish the job from there. Rinse and repeat 4 times and you're golden. But there's a catch. When we charge up the generators, we can't see where the deterrent is on the map. And if the deterrent gets too close to us, we need to use our flashlight to shine them away. And the flashlight's battery is incredibly limited. Trust me when I say that every second counts here. If you use your flashlight because you think the deterrent is there, but he's not, you may have just ruined your run. And if you let him come near you one too many times, your flashlight will die before you get the chance to destroy him. You need to spend every possible second charging the generators. Also, don't look at the phantoms. In the end, I really love this final hour. I always love final challenges that give you something different in terms of gameplay, like in Candy's Remastered or Treasure Island, and even in Password Entertainment Storage. But here we have an entirely new gameplay loop in an entirely new setting. It really feels like it just goes above and beyond. And with the deterrent destroyed, Tealerland is over. Today for a custom hour with exclusive animatronics and an extra menu. Tealerland was quite the experience for me. It showed me the absolute beauty of going into a new horror game blind. I've applied this for a couple other franchises like Resident Evil. It also just has a stellar gameplay loop and style. In fact, this experience felt so unique that I kind of have a hard time believing this is a fan game. This feels unique enough that with a few gameplay changes, this could easily be its own thing. Something along the lines of case animatronics, or a worse example, Endless Insight. I cannot recommend Tealerland enough, and it's free on Game Jolt, so give it a whack. Is it my favorite FNAF fan game? It might be up there. I really find myself loving a bunch of other ones that kind of give it a little bit of competition. We'll get to those eventually, trust me. But this is definitely a game where I have a hard time finding things wrong with it. Thank you, Nitru, for this awesome game. And thank you for watching this video all the way through. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. My name is AJ Plays. And Willow is really